No, I think it's critical that we acknowledge that it is a challenge to pivot and change. And I
Mhm.
think it was uncomfortable for a lot of people. And some people are still figuring out, what their workspace and place could and should look like. What is that right mix? But at the end of it, people want connection. They want engagement. They want recognition. They want to win. And we can still have meaningful engagement like this.
Right.
And there are people on my sales team and customers that I've never met in person that I've had video conversations with over the last year. But I don't think that those relationships are lacking. I feel like we're leveraging the parameters that are in place to sometimes have more frequent touches, so we can be more available to our clients. Look at that from that abundance mindset lens. What doors can we open now virtually that we couldn't before? There are literally zero geographical barriers. And I
Right.
look at when I was at AT&T years ago, I felt like I was on top of the world. I got up in front of 200 salespeople every day and gave these speeches and got everybody fired up, right? And I was like, I felt like I almost spent years trying to recreate that kind of magic. But the reality is people are always out there to be engaged and they want to be engaged. Social, you do a podcast. I'm doing these conversations and trying to start provocative conversations with the sales and leadership community. And there's a lot of similarities in an audience. You can see the reactions. You can
Mhm.
engage people directly. You can do a lot of the same things on social. I mean, granted, there's not a whole lot of engagement between just somebody liking, but if you take it one step further and thank them for the like, or thank them for engaging, or engage in a meaningful dialogue, you can start conversations just like this. You and I met via social. I've met a lot of other people via social. And so, very meaningful conversations and a lot of learning can transpire based on conversations that we have on social. Same thing with customers. Um, that ability to engage with a customer in a meaningful way, you can have just as many, if not far more, quality touches by sending video, by engaging in video types of conversations. And, the audience is there. I think that on social, you can actually surpass some of the ability to engage in quality conversation just because you can do so much so quickly and effectively in a way that still goes through. And the last thing I would say, everything that you said tells me personal touch still shines through. Like, there's a lot of people that are engaging via email or maybe social platforms, but you're sending video and you're doing other provocative outside the box ways that not everybody's doing in order to engage. That stuff matters. It leaves an impression. And so you are putting forth basically a brand of how you like to how you like to engage, which still has a lot of the same look and feel as what we used to be able to do. And some semblance of that is going to continue to return. But for right now, there's zero geographical barriers or challenges in connecting meaningfully with people. And I think that actually leads perfectly in to one of the other topics that we wanted to discuss. I think every organization right now is going to start to analyze as it becomes more and more acceptable to meet in person. They're going to look at the value of that in-person meeting, that sitting down,
Mhm.
having a conversation, shaking hands, sharing a meal, sharing a refreshment. They're going to look at that and the value of that and flying people to have those types of meetings and the challenges that it takes to schedule all of those folks, or versus jumping on a video call.
Right.
Now, I think that there's two very distinct ways of thinking about this. There's some people that are still saying, like, I just want to get back to normal. I'm waiting for that moment. And then there's another camp that's, hey, I'm just going to go completely with this new virtual way. But I feel like the truth falls somewhere in the middle. I'd love to get your thoughts because you work with a lot of sellers, a lot of leaders. What is the mentality? And what do you think the workplace is going to look like going forward?
Well, you couldn't be more spot on in my opinion and what I'm seeing and what you just said, Carson. Because when I started down my road of virtual, if you will, um, I didn't know how long it would last. It's when I realized it would last longer than I thought, I was all in because that's all I had. And thank God for that, because I have become so much better at what I do now than I ever was. I was more prepared for 2021 than I've ever been prepared for a year ever. And because I learned in two things, I'll go back to you, but two things. all the adaptations I made, but you know, the most important thing was I became an adaptor. I learned to adapt. I learned to expect to adapt. I learned to actually go, bring it today. Because if you can change an old road warrior's mindset, I say we, the cosmos, I guess, karma, to I'm going to do all this virtual stuff while I have to. I can handle anything now. Bring it. It's just this is bring it, expect it, demand it. Let's go. Let's just change. So change is not an enemy if you just have a right attitude, right? But I found what you said is very accurate. There's two mindsets I started seeing very quickly. One was that very old school, I can't wait to go back to normal. I'm going to wait, another month or another 2 months, another 6 months. We're going to go back to normal. And I'm going to wait. And while you're waiting, people that are doing what you and I do have already had 17 contacts with your customer while you're waiting, right? You, in your mind, can only go see them. Well, that's going to be a year. We didn't know that, but if we could reverse back, that's going to be a year before you get to. I'm going to talk to them 4 times a week, and actually more than that, because with social media, and you do a ton of it, and those of us that get it or grasp it, that's 8, 9, 10 times a day that I am saying, hey, listen to what Randy's got to say. Randy's out there, right? As you do. So people, if I call you up now and you follow me on social media, it's like they do you, you know who I am. That's a huge plus. But then there's the other side, though, as you mentioned. I like this virtual thing. It's never going back to normal. We're just going to be in a studio in a little office and with fancy backgrounds or whatever. I'm gonna stage my office with plants and whatever, and I'm just going to be this virtual guru for life. And no, you're wrong again in my mind. And that's where I coined for myself, and I use it sometimes on some things. I'm working on a couple things right now. I may or may not use it with, but I coined a phrase of Randy's 2.5 hybrid amazing. And I'll explain that one real quick where I came up with it. Randy's easy, that's me. 2.5 was just kind of staying technologically right. Everybody has it's 2.0, now it's 2.5. Maybe I'll make it 3.0 someday. But I realized the hybrid approach had to happen. I can't wait for the old normal because I don't think that's ever going to be truly old normal again, whatever people thought. Because you're right. Manufacturers, suppliers, anybody that has people traveling, have figured out that we can do a lot of stuff without spending as much time, as much money, as much expenses on the road. And for manufacturers, that's a huge expense if they're paying company guys. I, as an independent agent, as a rep agency, every cent I spend is mine, right? So I'm going to always spend money if I need to spend money. But you and I are having just as good a conversation right now as if I would have spent, $900 on a flight and a rental car and a hotel for 2 nights just to come sit in your office for an hour, right? Yep. And plus, you can go back and do what you're doing as soon as we're done, and I can jump on the next Zoom meeting I need to do as soon as we're done, right? That's the beauty of it. Now, so that's where the hybrid in my mind, as you touched on, comes into play. Is it didn't take me a long time to figure out. My industry is still a very touchy-feely, hands-on, bro hug, pizza and pop for lunch, coffee and donuts, grab a burger and a brew in the evening. So there still needs to be that. My customers want it. I want it. Believe me. So how do we now, the plan, I think for me, as we come out of I went from fully road warrior to a year or a little more of almost totally virtual, had some road in between, but to how do I really hybrid this now to combine the two? And that's a work in progress and always will be.